Welcome back again to the Ted Lasso After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And tonight we're talking about Season 3, Episode 2, entitled, is it Don't Want to Go to Chelsea or I Don't Want to Go to Chelsea?
I don't want to go to Chelsea, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware. Do you know that's an Elvis and Costello song?
I figured it had something to do. I figured the title was very specific. Yeah, it was in parentheses too. So
yeah, well, I looked into it. I was like, because I was doing some research for the show. I'm like, oh, so I listened to it, and spoiler alert, it's terrible. It's really bad.
Okay, objectively, just really bad, according to Chris. I gotcha. Good episode though.
Yes, very good episode. I am enjoying these, and I'm finding out with this season, last season, and the first one, they all feel like their own season, but they feel like the exact same show.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that. There's a lot about this show, about this episode that I really enjoyed.
Highly polished, which I noticed last week and this week too. I mean, the show's always looked good, but it still kind of looked like a TV show the first couple seasons. I feel like they're shooting it in a way where it almost looks like Ted Lasso the movie. Like it's
almost cinematic, yeah.
Yeah, just the way the shots are framed and like whatever lens they're using. There's something subtle that's going on with season 3 where it just looks like a bunch of money's behind it.
Well, it also could be this is really the first season that is truly not pandemic bound.
True, yeah.
So that could be really what it is. And with Apple just coming out and saying they're going to put like $1 billion worth of their shows into like theatrical type of releases, it could have something to do with that too.
Is that big news today?
Yeah, that was more news today. That came out today. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They're going to go ahead and instead of putting all their services like right on their platform, they're going to give them theatrical releases as well.
Oh, very nice. Well, yeah, Ted Lasso episode 2 of season 3. It's sad. Every episode that we get through in season 3, it's like one step closer to the end.
We have 8 more now, which are 10 total episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad, but it's so I don't know. There's something about this show. Like I said it last week, this is one of the only shows that I don't jump the opening.
Yeah.
The beginning of it, there's something just comforting to that, opening. So I just love. I refresh at Tuesday night, 9:00. I went ahead and did it again this week to see if they released it again. And sure enough, they released it at 9:00 again on Tuesday. So there may be a pattern they hold every week now. So, or
yeah,
I'm
probably
hoping.
This was a big episode for a couple characters in particular, probably both Roy and Rebecca, with some sprinklings of Ted and Keeley as far as and kind of the whole team as a whole,
Yeah.
Just little asides from the rest of the team, from like Jamie and but I was not surprised. This is a funny show. But I was laughing quite a bit up front, the first part of this episode, just the back and forth with the confusion of Trent Crimm and this new guy coming on board. And like, why would he write a book about Trent Crimm? And I was just laughing so hard.
Well, I laughed basically right after the gate because I laughed at something that I knew. I'm going to say 60% of the people watching the show would have thought the same thing Ted thought. Because we're not a big soccer society yet. We're growing, but not. When they went in and said not Zlatan, Zava?
Yeah, I think it's Zava. Yeah.
Zava left Juventus. And he said, "What about the children?" I laughed out loud. Janessa, my wife, sitting next to me, had a blank stare, not knowing what I was laughing at. I knew Juventus was a soccer team.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people that don't cover Italian soccer would know that's a soccer team.
Oh, okay. Well, what about the children? I don't know. I still don't get the joke.
Well, he thought it was a man and a woman separated. So-and-so left so-and-so. Well, what about the children?
I see. That makes funny.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They got a good belly laugh out of me immediately.
Yeah, Zava was a big thing this episode. The introduction of this, I guess, how well are we going to get to know this character, or is it just going to be a couple of jokes throughout the season?
I think it's going to be big within the season.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be the conflict. I think they're setting him and Jamie against each other.
Yeah.
Because there is a player that this Zava is being modeled after. And it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I know I butchered his last name.
Maybe not. It sounded all right.
But yeah, he's a player that always seen himself as the top player. He left Europe, came here, played here, went back over there. He's always thought of himself as the best, but he's never quite been the best. There's always been like a couple players above him.
Okay.
Even the way that they made him look, it's pretty damn close. It's obvious who they're modeling this guy after.
Right.
So I was like, I like that. I like the how they're doing that and how they're like, ah, he's here. The whole thing with Danny Rojas, like, did you see my goal? Did you see my
And my face scored. Okay, so yeah, it starts off. The episode starts off with rumblings about them, going after this guy, trying to get him on the team. And there's some speculation around the crew, the guys. And there's a scene where Roy and Keeley. So I want to ask you about this. I don't know if there's been any progression for the love triangle per se, but the whole opening scene where they read, Roy and Keeley's body language, then Jamie says hello to Keeley, and then afterwards checks in on Roy. Do you think we're heading towards more of that, or is it unfolding as you expected?
No, because that whole scene where Isaac basically reads it. He said
Yeah,
without saying a word, he knew what happened. And when Jamie, then I thought, okay, Jamie's going to chase her down. That's what I thought was going to happen.
right.
When he made that hard right into the training room with Roy, that threw me. I was like, okay, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
And when he was saying when he wasn't asking if it was okay for him to go, go after her, he was actually going to a friend,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, that's leaps and bounds from where we started in season 1.
Yeah.
Uh, now I don't think so. I don't know where the Keeley storyline's going. I think she's going to wind up back with the team. I think that little firm she's running isn't going to last
Yeah.
for good or bad. She's going to wind up back with Rebecca. But relationship wise, she may not be with either of them. She may not be with anybody, period. She may just become a strong female character, just like Rebecca has.
Yeah, I feel that, and this is the way I thought they may handle it, because I think the expectation would be to play into that love triangle again, or at least those dynamics. But Ted Lasso is consistently done kind of the opposite of what your expectations are.
Yeah.
And kind of throw you a curveball. And this, you're right. When Jamie made a beeline to go check in on Roy, that was a curveball. And that was it threw me too.
I love the new Kit Boy. How about we go get some drinks? It's all single guys.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I just won't say that word.
While they were doing that, I was like, hey, be careful. You're just making another Nate. 'Cause, 10 years from now, he'll be some coach somewhere and he'll be spitting in the mirrors and stuff.
Oh man, that's great. But yeah, I mean, what did you think of, like, we were talking before we went live when they brought Trent Crimm in? He was sitting in Rebecca's office and they were all like, don't say yes, don't say yes. And Ted's like, sure.
That was another. I was just laughing because it was just like going on way too long. Like Ted not knowing what to do, and they're all just like, no. And it just goes on for a couple of beats too long, where it went back around to becoming funny again. And I laughed out loud like a second time. But I like Trent Crimm being a part of the season as a whole. I like him being in there at the facilities and kind of checking in on them. He's going to have more of a role this season, it seems like, and I'm up for that. I like that actor and I like the character.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I love going back to Trent. I got to toot a little bit of my own horn because I think at the end of last season, I said I think this next season is going to be a little bit of Trent Crimm joining the team and writing a book, and maybe
Yeah,
I think episode 1 I said he may narrate a last part of the final episode,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
they're absolutely setting that up. A little bit, like I said, a little bit of me tooting my horn. I think I did a good job
You
there.
did good. Good job. Amber's checking in with us. Hi, Amber. I like how Jamie went to comfort Roy, not confront him. I was expecting a confrontation,
Yeah.
but it was comfort. Shows a lot of growth for him. He's finally maturing, and that's absolutely true. And I like that. Like, we've already had this character progression with him. Let's not, revert back to old ways.
But how much see, they've already basically determined they need arrogant Jamie at times. When they
Yeah,
basically gave him the sign from the sideline so he went and scored. The next episode isn't a name. It's a formation, which
hmm
is telling me they're putting this Zava up front. and replacing
Mm-hmm.
Jamie. And they're putting Jamie in the midfield. So Jamie's not going to be the striker on the team anymore,
Right.
which is automatically going to cause confrontation.
My call for this season, and you're right, they did a pretty good job this episode of setting up this, kind of dynamic between Zava and Jamie, because JV's just not as enthralled by Zava as everybody else on the team is. He's a little bit more hesitant, and
He's not
I think
starstruck.
no, he's not starstruck at all. I feel like we're gonna see even more of a character progression for Jamie. Like last season, he went from being a dick to being a team player. Now I feel like we're going to go from him being a team player to being a leader on the team. And I think he's going to finish the season out being like basically, if not captain in name, but like captain spiritually for these guys to lead them.
Well, you can already see that happening in the locker room, because when they
Yeah.
went into halftime, when they were down 1-0, he was the one stepping up, saying, "Okay, guys, this is what's going on." He's becoming the voice in the locker room. It's not really
Right.
Isaac anymore, and it's not what was the other guy's name? He had a love triangle with Rebecca last season.
Roy?
No, not Roy. He didn't nothing with Roy and
Oh,
Rebecca.
oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name, but
Dang it, yes.
But anyway, you would think it would be one of those two, but I like seeing Jamie kind of step into that role, because it's showing he was the arrogant striker. He left, he was humbled, he came back, he's growing within the team, and now he has a voice.
Right.
And they're listening to that voice, which goes a long way as well. Yeah, and Amber here thinks she agrees that the Jamie Zavan drama will we replace the love triangle.
Yeah, which I'm all for. I didn't want to go back to a love triangle. I didn't want them to retread that whole thing.
Yeah, no, I was over that. It's too easy.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's way too easy for that to be something that's there. But let's just dig a little more into Roy. This whole Roy and TRENT CRIMM thing. Like, I love TRENT CRIMM. I think he's one of the most underrated, underutilized characters in this series to this point. Now, we're gonna get a lot of them going forward now, because he's got access to the team and training and the coaches. Did you catch he has Nate's old desk?
Oh, I didn't exclusively think, oh, that's Nate's desk, but that they're sharing an office with him. I did.
Yeah,
realize
because
that, yeah.
Roy and Nate shared an office.
Right.
So that empty desk was Nate's old desk.
Yeah, makes sense. I wonder how their dynamic is going to grow. I thought that might have been a season-long thing, but they kind of squashed it this episode as far as the heat between Roy and Trent. It kind of dissipates by the end of this episode.
I think it was necessary.
Yeah.
I think it was really necessary. I loved how Ted treated it, because in the locker room, because basically I think Trent appreciated how the team was treating him, because you've seen it. You've seen him smile. He walk into the room and then they'll go quiet.
Yeah.
And he realized, they respect Roy so much that they're going to avoid him at all costs, knowing they're going to be pulling, his forehead out of their.
Yeah, I like that scene too, and I kind of like that they squashed it in this episode, because we have room to grow from here to really see them, now that they'll be sharing an office together too. We'll maybe see more of that dynamic and them grow closer, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and I like how they went ahead and they pulled it full circle. Like, when they did squash it, it was something that Roy pulled out of his wallet, and he's been holding on to since he was 17 years old. And
physically and emotionally holding on to it. Yeah.
Yeah, saying how he massively disappointed.
Yeah.
And that hurts a 17-year-old, definitely at that level, because if you've always been told you're the best, and you're the best, and you're the best, and the team has a great game, and you're at the highest level, and you play like crap, he admitted.
Yeah.
And that could affect you. And obviously it affected him a lot.
I did notice in two characters in particular, what I like to call the Ted Lasso effect, where characters that have been changed by Ted Lasso in the past 2 seasons have been kind of adopting his behavior and his ways. That the one is the Trent CRIMM thing, because Trent, when Roy confronted him finally, was not defensive at all. He was just like, I was young and I thought I was being edgy and cool, and I'm sorry about that.
Making a name for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, like immediately he was like, I get it, and that sucks, and I'm really sorry about that. Like, that's cool. And that's something like Ted would immediately like, hey, you're forgiven, Rebecca.
Well,
You
I
know?
like the line that he was like, at that time, we both had something in common. We
Yeah.
both hated each other.
Yeah, and he's also minding his step. He's not like overdoing it. Like he leaves the room as soon as Roy's done with him, so he
Yeah.
knows not to overstep his bounds.
Oh, I love when he goes, "Oi!" and everyone just stops, and you know how serious the "oi" is by how much bass and loudness, how loud it is.
Right. He's able to corral those guys. The other character that I saw, and maybe we'll talk about it a little later, is that scene where Keeley was kind of confronted her CFO,
Barbara.
that really kind of like, talked down to her friend, which I understand where she's coming from, like nepotism or, that kind of thing. But she really was like just terribly rude to her.
That
And
dynamic has got me
yeah,
confused. Like, what really, truly is that dynamic? Is this her business or is she just a figurehead?
yeah,
Like, they know her, like, she made her name, in all the advertising, and she did everything prior to, becoming part of Richmond AFC. Then she became, successful Richmond AFC. Now, is she just the face and they've got everyone else trying to run it behind her? So
right.
I'm curious where that's going to, and I really don't think that's going to have a happy ending. I think she's going to wind up, the business isn't going to have a happy ending. I think it's going to wind up back with Richmond and Rebecca.
Oh yeah, we may get there. It is a strange dynamic, but I am interested to see how it shakes out because they added some, that character beat that they had between the two, where Keeley felt the need to really address, the conversation that just took place, and that's something that Ted would do. That's another Ted
Yeah.
Lasso effect, where it's like, hey, you did wrong by this person just now. I want to call you out on it immediately so we can squash it.
But it also wasn't an aggressive call out.
Right.
She
Yeah.
sat down with her. And then when she noticed she has all those snow globes and the firm has been sending her to all these other places, there's kind of a insecurity within her as well. Because they wouldn't have been bouncing her around all these different places if she wasn't doing it.
Yeah, we've got Boondy back with us. Welcome back, Boondy. Boondy also says she is the CFO. She has to be frugal with the money. Absolutely. They were butting heads a little bit as far as the budget, which was fun.
Oh, and the company credit card that you can't use.
Yeah, and you saw that text, right? When Keeley was watching the Chelsea game, that text come through, hey, let's use the company credit card on mimosas. She's probably like,
Yeah, let's not. Let me see here. We've got Amber said agree. Oh,
it's
KJ.
likely KJ. Oh yeah. Let's see. Amber also says PR will likely fold. I hope it doesn't. Yeah, I would be sad if it did because this Keeley came a long way, and for that to kind of not be successful, although that is life, right? Like you invest a lot of time and effort into something that doesn't pan out.
And
That can happen.
It's also
but,
she lost a relationship
right
because of it.
Yeah.
So this could be really, really traumatizing toward. Definitely when they went back to Chelsea, and we finally get to hear he's here, he's there, he's every everywhere. Roy can't. I didn't think we were going to hear that again. And then when I thought this showed how big of a friendship between Rebecca and Keeley, because Rebecca immediately grabbed her hand.
Yeah, they were doing that for each other. Yeah, throughout the episode. Yeah. We've got Maynard. What's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome back, Maynard. Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely.
And then Amber, I think Keeley will change Barbara the way Ted changed Trent. That's what I'm kind of. There's seeds planted towards that this episode. I think
I like that call. I didn't even think of that. Even though you kind of seen the, like I said, the insecurity in Barbara when she left the room, and that would be interesting to see how that's actually going to go ahead and what that if there is going to be a full story arc within her firm there.
Maynard, I think Roy's arc would be on how he can succeed in his second career as insinuated by Trent. He's already feeling inadequate. Yeah, we're going to see. They are setting some real good character beats up for this season. I wasn't sure how the third season was going to play out, but there's a lot of room for growth in a lot of these characters that I didn't necessarily think going into the season that there would be, but there seems to be after these first two episodes.
What do you think of the whole Roy thing? He was like, I'm kind of jumping to the end here, but it was like, how'd you feel going back to Chelsea? And he said it was kind of sad.
Right.
And he's like, you know, it was the first time that he felt like he couldn't keep up. And that was earlier in the season. And it was that the whole way. And he wanted to get out before being kicked out.
Yeah, I think that Trent called it spot on. I think both Ted and Trent realized that Roy was talking about two things at once during that whole dialogue. Because Trent is like, sports can be a great analogy for other things, which you totally can see that he's also talking about Keeley. Like, I quit Keeley
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be fired from Keeley, basically. And the whole thing, it was so funny. A beat throughout the episode, they're so surprised that Roy was the one that did the dumping. They
Oh,
just
I
assumed that
loved it
Keeley dumped him.
when he said he dumped Keeley and Beard comes and goes, ah! Oh,
Yeah,
it's so funny.
yeah. Coach Beard had some great
Just sound
noises
effects.
this episode. Yeah, sound
Just
effects.
sound effects. No real lie, just sound effects.
Boondy, I think, commenting on my poster wall behind me. Yeah, my little. That's my. It did change. I got to tell. There's a new Super Mario Brothers poster back there coming out this April. We'll probably talk about that on Dad Rock too.
That's funny.
But yeah, Roy had a really good episode. There's a lot of focus on Roy, a lot of growth. The way his story about how he was kind of sad going back to Chelsea, and you could see it too. And they were chanting his name. He took some time to really acknowledge them and turn around. He was feeling it. He was in his emotions.
Oh, I love how the
there.
players behind him like just kind of put their hands out on his shoulder, and he didn't pull them off. He just kind of he was taking it in.
Yeah.
And then when he finally stood up and then he saluted the crowd, I didn't think he was going to do it, because everything in this show leading up to this just shows, you know, Roy as just a hardened, you know, just a person. And like even he said when he was growing in that final conversation, when, you know, Ted was like, you know, maybe not yet.
Yeah.
When he's referring to his growth. Like it's just
Right.
not the way he wanted to be able to enjoy it. He said maybe that's just not me. And he said not yet. So he's still basically saying that there's more growth within Roy that to be had with him.
You know, you mentioned that scene, and it's funny, and that was kind of the last scene of the episode. It starts with the three of them in the room, right? And then Roy finally leaves, and then Trent and Ted have a moment about how sports is an analogy, and then Trent leaves. And the camera kind of hangs on Ted there for a moment at the final scene, where you could tell maybe Ted's reflecting on himself a bit and his own choices.
Well,
as far
he
as
called Trent sport. He only calls his son sport.
Right.
And then they held the camera on him, and you've seen that like reflection that's happening within behind his eyes.
Yeah.
Probably about his son and what's happening back here in the States.
Yeah, and the whole dynamic of quitting before you get fired, that kind of thing. Maybe that has some relevancy towards Ted and his decisions in life in his past too. That's yeah, you could tell. I liked how they did that scene because it was all about Roy.
His father quit rather than getting
Right.
fired. I mean, that's really grim, but that could be where his mind's going, because we've seen him with Dr. Sharon talking about you don't quit things.
Yeah.
And he said because your father quit on you.
Yeah.
That's I mean, a lot of the serious undertones that took place last season, but that could have been something that's how was playing through his head.
But isn't that funny? That's how good that this show is that we got all of that from just a beat, just from the camera hanging on Ted for one extra moment before the show closes and we see credits. Like we got all that.
I know. And I just, it's the writing for this show is so far beyond as good as it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like,
I know, and it makes it sad that we're in the final season. But look, if they are able to close this thing out, and so far so good with these 2 episodes, with an excellent 3rd season, this will be a very memorable one series for sure.
Maynard's searching online. I don't know if that's a good idea. See, I searched that on Twitter, and the first tweet basically sort of spoiled me as it showed pictures of something to do with a match with West Ham. Don't do it. Oh no, I don't do it.
Oh no, I'm not gonna do it.
No, search Ibrahimovic. How do I pronounce it earlier?
It was close.
Zlatan. Just search Zlatan, and then search Zava. You'll see a side-by-side picture of them, and I swear they look like the same person. It's great.
How do you spell? Well, I'll do it later.
Zlatan.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you can do that later.
Zoltar. Yeah, it reminds me of like a wizard name or something. So yeah, that's kind of where we leave Roy. So there's regret, of course. We didn't really learn how it shook out as far as the relationship, but it seems like Roy was really the one to initiate the breakup. And that's why Keely is,
She's
so
hurt. I
distraught.
don't think she's used to someone leaving her.
Right.
I think she's used to being the one in the power and one that actually does it.
Mm-hmm. Maynard says the Zava actor has Zlatan's smile down pat. Oh, that's so you're onto something. Yeah, very similar. The other character in this episode that has the biggest, I guess the longest amount of screen time is Rebecca.
I think my quickly growing favorite character of the show.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Her growth.
Yeah.
From where she was just like when we first met her, she just wanted to just destroy this team. To the end of that season, how she admitted to, Ted, how that's what her goal was.
Yeah.
And then, just to see the growth over last season with her mom and her dad and, dad passing and that whole thing. And now she wants to win. And she's actually, without having a better way of saying it, she's nutting up. She's just chasing after what she wants. And not just because she wants to be, Rupert, but because she actually wants to be successful in the position she's in.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that. Yeah. There's the growth even in this episode, I think. Amber thinks Keely is so upset because she didn't see it coming. She was in the long haul with Roy. Absolutely. See, my assumption was that they had kind of a mutual breakup last time and that it was still hitting her hard. But yeah, the fact that maybe he initiated the breakup.
Because that's what guys always say, oh, we broke up with him. We left the hot girl.
Look, even I, just like the characters in this episode, assumed that he was dumped. I thought this. I was thinking the same thing.
It would make sense.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. But and
Amber also says Rebecca's rant at Zava in the bathroom was brilliant. It definitely was. She clearly knew how to actually get to him. Yeah, and it wasn't with compliments and sweet
talk.
Good
lead-in to what clip we have this week. So let's go ahead and watch that, and then
let's check it out.
I mean, if you were great, truly great, you could play anywhere. But instead, you choose a club like West Ham because it's big and shiny, and you know that they'll win whether you're there or not. And you'll never have to wonder if you're still as good as you tell everyone you are. But you and I know that you're not. You're overrated. You're overpaid.
And by God, stop eating asparagus.
I'm glad that we got good audio with that clip. Just like excellent sound effect work.
Oh yeah, it was the stream was strong.
Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, she said exactly what he needed to hear. And yeah, you kind of play into the guy's ego. Like you know that folks that walk around like him more likely and more often than not have a voice inside of them that knows that it could crumble at any time. And they're kind of putting on a big front.
He wins, but he leaves the place in ruins.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about, what's going to happen here. Or if it even makes it to what we could consider one of the transfer windows. He may sign with them, and there may be a transfer window may happen, and they may send him out because the headache isn't worth the upside.
Or do we see the Ted Lasso effect actually change this Zava guy for the better? No? You don't think there's enough time? Brand new character,
not enough
final
time,
season?
No. We don't have enough episodes. We don't have enough seasons.
Let's see. I mean, that was kind of the end game there for Rebecca.
I love that though. But before that, she's trying to she leaves Keely and Higgins to go. It's like, I'm gonna get him. I'm tired of Rupert just getting everything he wants. And I love that little story she told about how Rupert came into the bar. And then a week later, he came back without his wife and asked her out. And then came back every day and just sat there and talked to her and basically just made her feel like she's, the only thing on the planet, special. And he's like, he's doing that to him. And that's why she knew he was getting his way.
And she didn't give up, right? She wasn't, just fine to settle with the fact that he would probably win yet again. Like she
Rebecca
kept pressing.
Last year in first season would have.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Amber says, nah, Ted will change Zava the way he does everyone. I think so too. I think we're going to see Ted come into his full powers here in season 3. He'll be able to change Zava in the blink of an eye.
Is Ted going to put an army man in his beer before he sends him off? It's kind of like he did with Jamie in season 1.
Maybe he will. We'll just see the. I don't know where the show's going, honestly.
Like I have a very, very good idea on how it's going to end, but getting to the end point, I don't know how we're going to get to. Like, for instance, when they went into halftime and they were down 1-0 and they were having this strategy meeting, I thought I said it out loud to Janessa, my wife. I was like, they're going to lose 3-0. It was just I just had that feeling that they were going to just get blown out.
Trounced.
You know, the first game back in the Premier League, it would have made sense. You know what I mean? Let's not give them that storybook ending from the beginning.
Yeah.
Let them have a tough loss. And let Ted have that tough loss. Let Trent see that tough loss. But it makes sense with Roy coming back, though.
Right.
With Roy coming back to Chelsea and them getting a tie, getting a result on the road is phenomenal. Definitely when you go to Chelsea, because they're not a small team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I just want to see how they get to the end point. And I hope they actually land the end point. I really do.
I do too. Amber says, I love that Rebecca's beginning to fight her own battles instead of relying on others, for sure. And the return of the army men. we may see them. We may. I liked all that stuff too. And I liked anytime we get to see Rupert get some comeuppance, him in the limo, just like totally pissed.
Oh, that
Zava
was funny.
didn't fall for his BS. Yeah, that was good.
Dude,
too.
How about that asshole line he pulled on her? You know, guys get bored with the same old, same old. I was like,
he loves it.
Oh my!
I mean, he
God.
just loves to dig at her. Like
But that's the writing, though. The writing, it's spot on his character.
Yeah,
it's like I believe it. That's the thing. I believe that would be something he would say and he would do.
I think that was the perfect timing, because when he said that, in my head, I was like, Rebecca's grown too much to let this affect her, let his words affect her the way it has before. But it looked like it did, because she seemed upset. But then the next shot was her walking where he was walking and then making a left towards Zava in the bathroom.
Right. Yeah, it pissed her off.
It pissed her off. And that's the growth that I thought was there. And it turns out it was there. So I was happy about that.
And she was tired of hearing of, Higgins' little birdies. 7 degrees of, the lip reader or the, I was like, my God. Yeah. I was trying to figure out, like, how can I put this in notes for him for us to be able to talk about? I was like, there was no way. I was going to make some reference to, like, Game of Thrones or, Kevin Bacon or something.
I know. A lot of that back and forth was really funny this episode. Character beats. Face goal is hysterical. He actually got one, too. He talked about it.
My face shot. It almost scored.
I know. They talked about it off screen, and then it actually happened on screen. We got to actually see it. Bundy says, Rebecca changed Zava's mind. I'm a toilet break. I'm sure Ted will change Zava in a season. That's true. He changed Zava's mind in a toilet break. So Ted has more time than that, for sure. At least if you go.
How often has you think Zava actually been approached that way?
Probably not often.
I mean, not only be approached that way, but be approached that way by a team owner and a female team owner.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't care that he was in the men's room. She kicked that door in, went right up to him, and just called him a chicken shit. I mean, I cut that out, but I mean, it's pretty much.
Well, I get the feeling that she was basically giving him exactly the own internal dialogue that he has in his head. Look, because like I said, typically people don't really walk around with that kind of air without having something going on internally.
It was a pleasure for you to meet me.
Yeah, they're like overcompensating with their own insecurities. And I think Rebecca probably saw that and called him out on it. It was good. We'll see. I'm interested in seeing, is Zava an actual character this season? Like, are we going to get to know him a little bit, or is he just a foil for Jamie and just a way for them to win some games? And
I think that's it. It's the way that they're going to be able to justify being able to have them win it all. He's going to be the piece that was missing. He's not going to have a big arc. He may get hurt. That may be the way just, for him to go away. He may blow his knee out or something, because it said 14 teams in 15 seasons. Yeah. So he's been around. He's on the back end of his career. So he may get injured playing West Ham. That could be a big conflict that takes place. One of Nate's players, Nate directs one of his players to take him out, and he winds up getting a red card, injures him, and knocks him out for the season. I mean, that could be one of the things that goes forward.
Griffin mentioned something from last episode. I don't know if we saw you for that one, Griffin, but yeah, what about Ted's son being a bit more mature than Ted, and then the whole drive to win thing? That the conversation they ended on last week.
You got to at least try.
Yeah, you got to at least try, and I think I will probably see more of that. Well, I know for sure because we know that his son comes back. So
Henry comes
more
back, because he's wearing the West Ham jersey. They show that in the trailers. He's up.
Yeah,
they're supporting Nate, which has got to be a gut punch to Nate.
I'm actually, with how much Nate we saw last week, we didn't get any Nate this week. I was kind of surprised by that, but
I was actually glad by it, because there was no room for it. They gave us so much huge storylines with Roy and with Rebecca. I mean, they basically fed us a little bit of Keeley in there and a little bit of Ted, and they really couldn't overstuff it because they still gave us almost an hour episode, so they're giving us a good length.
Yeah, it was. It was good. I'm trying to see if there's anything else regarding Keeley or Ted had some growth here that we didn't mention already.
What'd you think of the CD? Go give them the breakup CD, and the Kippo was like, "What's the CD?"
That was both funny and sad because I was like, "Ouch."
Yeah, that hit hard, and it was funny because when he was throwing Beard the keys, the Beard
just
keys.
He just hit Beard and he kept on running.
Just kept on going.
Yeah, it's like I got
until he turned around when he found out that Roy broke up with Keeley. He came back.
Then he had to hightail it back there. Yeah, that was funny. Amber says, I think Zava would have left West Ham due to Nate being insufferable. Yeah, he went to the right team. It's funny you mentioned that, Amber, because there was a moment when Rupert and Rebecca were talking to each other where I thought that maybe Rebecca was like, let them have this Zava guy, and I want to see what kind of chaos this guy causes over there, especially with Nate being all the pressure that he's under.
Yeah.
And that's the way I thought they were going for a bit, that he would be there. And we
that would be the downfall of West Ham.
Right. We may still be yet to see it. I don't know. According to Booney,
because if he starts with Richmond, and then at the transfer when he wants out and he winds up at West Ham because there's some type of conflict. Say something happens between him and Roy, or him and Jamie. You know what I mean? Or something down those lines. And then he wants to basically go up against him. He knows, Rupert is the ex-husband, and he wants, this kind of foil.
Let's see. Ted reading a book. Yeah, what do you think that was about? As far as when Beard walks in on Ted and he kind of questions why he's sitting there reading. I think Beard is used to being the first one in the room, and Ted usually kind of walks in later. Maybe it surprised him that he was there first before Beard, and actually reading a book that Beard reads. What do you think that scene was about?
I don't know, but I believe it's something to it. Nothing is really done on accident.
Right.
So yeah, I don't, and he was reading the
inverted pyramid. Yeah,
and that was what the season finale's episode was called last season. So, and he called it soccer. No, he called it football.
He called it football. Yeah, without even blinking.
That book.
Yeah. I thought it might have been an indicator of the stress level that he's under. That he's forcing himself to be the first one in the room to pick up a book that he hasn't picked up yet. I feel like we're seeing Ted be under the pressure of this season, the pressure that Rebecca was putting him under last episode. Yeah, that's what I took it as.
Yeah, I didn't read too much into it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen Ted just sitting in his office doing, eye battling things, so many different times. We need to clip that probably.
Yeah, probably. Amber says, I thought so too, that she might want to have West Ham to collapse from within. Oh, right. If Zava were to go to West Ham. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too in that scene. Well, hey, that still has yet to play out. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Oh, I thought the Hallmark Christmas movie explanation was funny.
Oh, that was funny. When nobody knew, when he was telling basically Roy to basically lift the whole band on talking to Trent, and then he explains what it is.
Yeah. He's like, they're really terrible movies. They're sucky movies, but they're also kind of great. And then he says again, it's like, oh, they're really bad, but they're also kind of great.
And it's funny because you can see Roy kind of in the back of his mind thinking, I kind of want to find one of these.
Right. He's like, oh yeah, I get that. That's what I've heard about that.
Behind this tough shell Roy has, I bet you he sits down and has a good cry to a Hallmark movie.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, him and his niece, in the holidays.
Oh, him and Phoebe. Oh man.
Yeah, probably forcing him to watch stuff like that, playing princess. I'm trying to think of anything else here. Yeah, you mentioned Trent calling him sport, or Ted calling Trent sport. I think we pretty much covered this episode pretty well. Overall, do you feel confident with how the season's going so far?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I have lost no hope in this show. Like I said, I like Tuesday. I actually got in trouble because Janessa, my wife here, what enjoys watching it too, and she told me she wasn't going to watch it on me first run because
right.
we do this, and I watch it a little differently when we do this because I got to watch it and I want to take notes and all that. But when I found out it comes out at 9, she said she was getting in the shower, so I was like, okay, boom. I was like, I hit play on it. Well, she didn't get in the shower. She comes back in the living room. What are you watching? I'm watching Lasso. She said, stop that. I said, do I have to rewind it? She's like, yeah. I'm like, crap. Okay. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
with the third of it that I watched there, and then the twice that I've watched it a few times. And I don't say that about a lot of shows. A lot of shows, even the shows that are my favorite shows,
Yeah,
I'm a one-time view.
right.
This one here, there's times that I watched episodes 2, maybe 3 times. It's just there's a comfort level to Ted.
It is comfort food. Yeah, it's ultimately a very rewatchable show. Griffin asks, what about Trent and the impending tell-all? That's a good question. Do you think there's a possibility that we see Trent write this thing and there's some negative backlash? Do you think it'll just be positive, or do you think there might be a chance of them being like Trent betrayed us? Trent Crimm,
I don't
betrayer.
think anything that he writes in the book, I don't think Ted is going to take offense to.
Mm,
And the reason I come to that now, Roy or Jamie or anybody else, they may have their own
yeah.
Rebecca, whoever the other character is. But speaking directly about Ted, there's a relationship and there is a trust and a respect for the
Hmm.
two of them. Because even when last season, when Nate told him about the panic attack, Trent told him
Yeah.
first before he actually released the story to give him that
True.
professional courtesy. And he even told him who his source was, which in
Hmm.
essence was the end of his time at the Independent. Now he's independent.
Now he is independent. Yeah. Maynard says, I'm hoping the book is something that really comes out, like we can buy it. Oh, wouldn't that be
that
great?
would be cool.
Oh, you'd be first in line to pick that up, wouldn't you?
Oh, I would absolutely buy that.
Amber, Trent is the only journalist who really sees Ted for who he is, and I think his book is going to reflect that. Trent gave up his career because he respects Ted too much. And I think ultimately you're right, Amber. I think it's a long shot that it'll be anything negative. I just thought that maybe it would be interesting if it went
Like I
that
said,
route, but
even if there was some negative in it, which I would expect some negative to be in it,
yeah.
I think as a whole it'd be a positive. And I think Ted's going to go down as some type of like folklore hero in
Yeah.
Richmond.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
he's
Ted
going to get in
Lasso
there.
effect.
He's going to
Mary
have
Poppins.
I love how we haven't seen it really yet, but him walking through the city, and then just starting kicking the ball around with some of the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
that one girl, I don't remember her. I don't know if they even told us her name, but he would kick the ball around with her. So
Right.
there's a lot of things that he's not a manager that thinks of himself too high.
Yeah.
He thinks of himself as one of the people within the city. He goes to the pub. He sits down with them. He mingles with everybody. So there's gonna be a folklore to him when he leaves.
Well, I think that's about going to do it for this week's episode of the Ted Lasso After Show. Great episode so far for Ted Lasso Season 3. I want to thank the folks that joined us here live for our coverage. Amber, Maynard, Griffin, Boondy. You guys really came through and asked us. We love that. We love talking to you guys live. When you bring up points and questions about the episode, we love to interact and talk to you about it. It's the whole point of this live show. So we love you joining us every week for this, and be sure to join us next week. We'll be here Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. to talk about Season 3, Episode 3. And I don't know, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope you have, but we have other stuff going on. We are currently covering both Ted Lasso and The Mandalorian. We've been talking about The Mandalorian this week as well. But yeah, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube.
Okay, guys. So I guess until we see you normally on Wednesday, see you
Right.
next week.
See ya.